all the things that happen to me good in life start with I didn't get into a club. There's all kinds of authority. There's people who are an authority, and they are people that are in authority. You don't try to get people to buy, you try to get them to decide. I'm a difference maker, and I meet with
Mm.
difference makers for the purpose of making a difference. And an ethical influence is something that's true, that's naturally arising. It's not force fit, and it's win-win for everyone. You
Create a
made me
legacy.
cry, you meanie.
I just ask questions. Hello and welcome to the Differentiation Podcast. My name is Michèle Sorgaroli and I'm your host. And today we have the distinct pleasure of being joined by our guest, Tommy Schaff. Tommy is the founder of Major League Influence and someone who truly, genuinely lives with an abundance mindset. He has built his business on real relationships and referrals, but all staying grounded in the family, purpose, and big dreams. From his childhood, I get a kick out of this, from his childhood baseball card collection of 25,000 cards to now owning the world's largest bobblehead collection of 7,000 pieces, with one that I understand is 11 feet high. Tommy literally proves, that when you embrace what made you weird when you were 12, you can build success that's both practical and deeply personal. And this is going to be a fun conversation.
I don't know. I feel like I've just been eulogized.
Oh, it's
Like,
amazing.
dearly beloved.
Yes, exactly. You're so funny. All right, so I just wanted, before we were coming into this conversation, just literally 30 seconds before I said, I called you the yes man. And what I meant by that, and I said, because you know how, more than anybody I know, to get people to say yes.
That's funny. I'll tell you why I had a reaction. I have 7,000 bobbleheads, which means I have 7,000 bobblehead boxes. And like they're sitting in storage. Like, what are you going to do with them? But bobbleheads, they go like this. So I thought if I took pictures of all the bobblehead boxes, I could do like a mosaic and design an image and then put the bobblehead boxes like in chicken coops so that when you were 30 feet away, they were an image. And
Oh
so I'm
my
like, what
gosh.
would it be? So I'm working on yes men, images that are yes men, but that's never usually a positive. A yes man is usually a
Exactly.
person, with
It
the
is.
exception of Jim Carrey's,
The
yes.
movie, yeah.
The
Yeah.
rest of the time, that's not a good thing.
It's true. Yeah, but I just think of you as the guy who gets people to say yes, and you just kind of can't help it. So you've got countless stories in your history, and I know that Major League Influence is a relatively new brand, if you will. It was Major League Sales before, I think, right?
Yeah.
So selling and influence, and I think it's really genuinely influencing people to do really cool things, as you have in your lifetime. I want to go back to when you were a youngster and when this passion started for you to get people to say yes to doing cool things.
Well, I don't know if it worked as romantic as you may think, but it probably occurred from having people say no,
Uh-huh.
being rejected. I transferred schools in the sixth grade to the public schools from the Catholic school because my cousins moved in from out of town,
Okay.
and my there was a Catholic youth group called Columbian Squires,
Okay.
and you had to get voted in.
Oh.
And they never ever had turned anyone down. But I said to my mom, I don't think I should go. I moved. They're all from the Catholic school, none from the public school. I'm not going to get in. Now, if I
Oh.
was a super athlete or I was super interesting or good at anything besides spelling, I would have had no worries, but I wasn't.
Oh.
And they were all kids that I played sports, and now I wasn't going to be on their teams. And I showed up and I did not get in.
Mm.
In fact, I was so traumatized
I
that
would
I didn't
imagine.
tell my parents because we drove from the farm into the
Mm.
meeting, and my dad was at the parents' thing, the Knights of Columbus. So I would go in every week pretending I was a member to the library, and then I'd come back. And after about 5 months, I got caught.
Oh my gosh,
And an
no.
adult said, "Hey, are you telling your parents that you are in the meetings?" And I'm like, "Yep." Well, now they shamed the kids and they made them take me.
Mm.
The shame of that, they wanted, now it's like you get picked on and stuff, and they assigned me a role. It changed my life. That what's a good punishment? Give the new kid that doesn't fit in the crappy job. We needed to buy a camera. We needed to buy a camera to take pictures of all of our exploits and for the scrapbook. And they're like, let's give it to him. And it was a
Mm.
punishment. But I was like,
Mhm.
my dad would say, be the labor, great or small, do it well or not at all. And so I decided to be good at it. Now there's no internet and
Mhm.
telephone is long distance to call 7 miles. It's
Mhm.
23 cents a minute back
Yeah.
in the day to call
Yes.
Bismarck. And minimum wage is $1.90. And so it's like my parents were like, you can't use the phone. And I rode my bike 7 miles to the shopping center and got all the prices. And I had these boards, and they were like, the loser did all this work. Let's make him the secretary. From that, I ended up being the state president 2 times and speaking at the national conventions. And it really, that the injury of it and the trauma of it said, I'm gonna I'm gonna figure out how to get people to like me. I'm gonna get figure out how to get things done. And so weird. The club that wouldn't have me, I become the president of, and then later, I became the National Elks Most Valuable Student and various awards. But all the things that happened to me good in life start with I didn't get into a club.
Isn't that phenomenal?
Yeah.
And yeah, you can feel that. I mean, grade six is such an influential time. What is coming up for you? Said the quote, "Be the labor, big or small,
Be the labor, great or small, do it well or not at all.
do it well or not at all."
It's longer
Um,
than that. It's once a job has begun, do it until it's done. Be the labor, great or small, do it well or not at all. And my dad's dad, I was an immigrant from
mhm.
Odessa, Russia,
Oh,
Ukraine now. Um, and that's his learning. He
yeah,
said that to my dad. My dad had an eighth grade education, and my grandfather would say it to him, say it to him. And my dad said it to us thousands of times. And
yeah,
it was usually like, quit going through the motions, like, do this thing or don't do it, but quit
yeah,
talking about it. And
right.
so, anyhow, that's
Do
where
it. Yeah. You know what? I think, I mean, the influence of that, particularly at a time when you were feeling like, okay, you've been tasked with this opportunity and feeling perhaps tentative or timid or shame in your, language, just like holy mackerel. But you said, I'm going to figure it out. And it ended up that you understood that you were appreciated or valued or liked, if you will, for getting things done. Is that right?
I don't know that that happened. I think I was respected for that.
Okay.
Um,
Interesting
I actually
distinction.
think sometimes I wasn't liked because of that.
Mm. But
Like
you're,
I have two children and they're adults now, but my youngest one, I remember him saying, "Dad, they make fun of me." I go, "Why do they make fun of you?" And they said they call me try hard. They make fun when I answer questions. They make fun of me
yeah.
for doing my homework. And I said, "Son, in another year, they will never be in a class with you ever. Just do your work. People do things to I had explained to them transactional analysis, okay, not okay. And so how some people when they feel not okay have to either promote themselves or rip you down,
Mm,
and they
mhm,
were doing both. And I said that all works out. What you got to learn is how not to lift yourself up in front of them. Like don't grandiose, honor
mhm.
what they're good at, like learn how to make friends and influence people. Then I handed him a tome from uh, Dale Carnegie, and he said, "I'm never reading that book, Dad." Uh,
Ah, but it's just do your work and do it well, essentially. So I'm curious because right around this grade six time would have been right around the time you were also collecting baseball cards, right?
yeah, a little bit before that, I had paper routes, and so I had 100 and some papers. And in North Dakota, with the snow that we'd get and the Alberta clippers that would come through and drop all their snow from the Rockies, it would not be uncommon for us to get 20, 24 inches of snow. And I'm a little person, kid, trugging along these 100 like papers. And on Wednesdays would be shopper day and Sunday would be the Sunday circulars. And
Okay.
it was difficult, but my parents say, if you want something, earn it. And so,
Mm.
we had jobs and I had lemonade stands and, did all that stuff. I'd get the kids in the neighborhood and I'd put a lemonade stand at the four-way so we could get them from each corner. And my mom said once, hey, if you're going to do that, you have to pay your own supplies. Back in the day, we only had two TV stations where I was at, and on each one of them, sitcoms, someone would go to the neighbors to borrow sugar, and so I would say, "Hey, can I borrow some sugar?" And then I'd go to, and these neighbors would say, "Hey, what are you making?" They're like, "What do you mean?" Tommy came over and got some sugar, and that was the end of my lemonade stand adventure. Uh, but my margins were great.
Fantastic. So, yeah. Oh, I mean, I just love that. So you had your paper route and you were making lemonade, and
So I
that
was
was,
buying people's cards. I would buy,
yeah.
there'd be a friend and they'd have older brothers who were like, I'm too big for this. And then I would get them. And I had a ton of them until 1986.
Wow. And what happened in 1986?
Had a business failure. Started my
Mm.
first thing and didn't understand how to mitigate disaster. And it didn't work out. I got $60,000 in debt in
Mm.
1986
That was a
with
lot of money back then.
back then when the best offers in the school were getting 19 grand back in those
Yeah.
days. There was a lot of money, so I sold my cards. I
Still a
did
lot of money.
singing telegrams every night. I
Mm.
did singing telegrams for a couple years to pay off, and that's why I collect paintings and bats and everything and no cards. I have no cards. No.
No
Tell you a
cards
funny
left.
story. I one day I made a bucket list and I said, it'd be great. I should get every Topps card that ever existed. And then I started looking at what that would cost. And it was tens of millions. And I thought, oh, well, just put that down for someday. And then I thought, I wonder if they have them all. Like you could buy and I wanted to get a price for a visualization. And
Yeah.
as I look at it, I see the guy who bought it was in my Bible study when my wife and I just got married in
Oh,
1995. Four
oh
young
my
Catholic
gosh.
group people got together, four couples, and this guy was an investment banker. He started a private equity firm, and he bought the. So I want the cards. The guy I was in group with bought the company, and I said, "Man, I got to get bigger goals."
Interesting, right?
Yeah, it
So
was
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. I mean, I know you to be a person with a genuinely abundant mindset, and living in abundance, and even just having 25,000 cards and having the largest bobblehead collection that speaks to abundance in a different way. Tell us about sales and influence. And I personally know how much passion you have for this area. I'm curious about, how did selling start for you, and how has it sort of grown a little bit over the years? Tell us a little bit about that story.
I don't know what's relevant. My dad had a store. He
Okay.
sold tractors and lawn and garden equipment in Mandan, North Dakota, a suburb of Bismarck. And so my dad sold stuff and he had a glee when he did. He would keep track of every customer and he sold
Um,
machinery at different color boards and he put when they left, he would say, hey, and then he'd get his pen and he would put it on the board and where they were from. And he just
oh,
celebrated all of that.
that's what
And
I'm
my dad
noticing.
he sold at premium prices, but he said we service what we sell. And when other people got a better deal on something that was a little worse, he said, I feel bad for them, but they're going to end up coming back. And so he never apologized for selling at full price. He taught me about sales. He had a sign, and there was a guy named John Ruskin, who was an economist. that had a quote, and it said something like, "There's always something that a man will make a little cheaper or sell, make a little worse and sell a little cheaper. And the people that buy from this man are his lawful prey." So there was this sign, it was behind his
Mm.
door and behind his desk. And when I would clean the office when I was, a kid and, sweep it and dust it and all that, I would dust that. My dad would make me say it. And when my dad sold his store some years ago, 20 years ago, he said, "Do you want anything? You worked in the store. Do you want anything?" And I said, "Can I have that sign?"
Yeah.
And so that sign's in my house. And I look at it. Weirdly, my dad photocopied it. And when I was home just weeks ago, there was the photocopied thing in his little office in his house where he moved. My mom and my dad. And so that's where it started. Was doing that. I went and as a junior in college, um, I transferred schools, and there was a time between the schools starting, like 3 months. So I walked in the tax commissioner's office of the state, and I sold. He became a U.S. senator later. I sold him a consulting project to design his computer systems, and IBM saw the report, and they said, "Who did the report?" And they said, "This kid." They're like, "Give us his name." And then IBM said, "Why don't you come to work for me, us?" And I said, "Well, because I'm moving to Minnesota and I'm going back to school to finish." They go, "Well, work for us there." And I got a great advantage at 20. IBM had a problem. The software was really taken off in 1984, small computers because of
Mhm.
Macintosh.
Remember that?
And the
Yeah.
1984 ads, people
Hmm.
were talking about them. And IBM had their green screens with VisiCalc and Lotus 123. And they said, "You know what? We think a bunch of people are going to buy these small computers and they're going to buy a bunch of software. We got to get in the software business." But older IBM veterans who had been there 30 years, they're like, "We're not selling software for little
Right.
computers. There's no money in it." And they couldn't culturally change. So they
Interesting.
hired two kids in all the major cities in the United States. And I was one of the Minneapolis ones. And so it's between my junior and senior year. 6 weeks of training in Las Colinas, Texas. Had a car, had an apartment, had a stipend. Um, Role play every day. Never taught us product. Sell, sell, sell. They taught us how to find a problem. And then there was
Mm.
an award every single day. Well, I won them all. And
Of course you did.
we got to the finals, and
Oh my
everyone was
gosh.
eliminated. And about two-thirds of our class was they didn't get the homework done. They were asked to go home. So one third graduated. And I'm in the finals, and this guy comes from Atlanta at the headquarters of this division to watch. And they
Mm.
give us this person with a stall and objection. Now, they told us, "Don't take no for an answer." The gal I was competing against, she took a no. They said nicely, "Oh, good job." Well, I didn't take a no. I kept asking questions, and they kept on getting more and more no. Like no one would ever have done what they did. But they wanted to prove they could break me, and I wouldn't let them. And then they were mad and they shamed me. And so when it was done and we got our awards and everything, everyone wore the blue suits and the full-year tie. I wore a camel hair with a pink tie and made it a noose.
Oh my
And
gosh.
I remember saying, "Someday I'm going to be a trainer and I'm going to say
Mm.
I never fit in at IBM." And so uh, I proved it. And so I did that. And then later on, I'd go to do all kinds of sales.
So what happened? I'm so curious. What happened that you were excelling at what they wanted you to do, and then they shamed you for being successful? Is that what I heard?
They shamed me in the role play. They wanted to like do a teaching,
Oh,
and I
okay.
wouldn't break. I wouldn't give up. I would keep asking. I would keep, and they're like, "You could have lost this big customer." And I'm in my head, I'm thinking, "You could have acted like a real person."
Oh,
But
okay.
so it was a way to, do what what they needed to do. And
What was, sorry, go ahead.
I just realized that I would never listen to authority. So it was a gift. Everything's a gift.
Everything's a gift. Well said.
Yeah.
What was it about that? Yes, you learned you never listened to authority, but what do you think was influencing you or motivating you, if you will, to not accept a no and to accept the intensity of that challenge? What was happening there for you?
I wanted to win. I'm sure it was ego. I wanted to win. I won. I won. I won. I wanted to beat this girl. Like I, and by the way, it sounds like I could have handled all the things better. Like you're 20 and there's a
Exactly.
guy pushing you around, and I'm like, yeah, let's see how this goes for you. Uh,
Oh, that's awesome. So there's always been a part of you that has challenged authority, for lack of better language, found a way to do something different.
Yeah, I've always had a way to work with authority too. I mean, I worked for this guy who became a US Senator, and I had an office with the US Senator. She was a staff attorney, Senator, it was Kent Conrad, and then who became the head of the budget, like the world's expert on the American budget in the Senate. And then Heidi Heitkamp, um, from who recently was a candidate, potential in the Democrat administration. But I get to go out to lunch with her every day. I've always done pretty okay with authority too. There's all kinds of authority. There's people who are an authority, and they are people that are in authority. People that are in authority that like to push on me are not my thing.
Hmm.
I love authorities. I look for authorities. I don't want someone to be an authority over my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. Has that how has that philosophy impacted your being involved in sales and influence?
Well, the first thing is I've looked for the world's best authorities. So I always kind of said, who's the best in the world? And then got a job with them. So who was the best guy in advertising in that era? There was the head of Carmichael Lynch, Lee Lynch. So I went to work there. I went to work for Tom Monahan at Domino's Pizza. I went to work and worked my way up to be the chief strategy officer for Tony Robbins. Today, I work with the authority on influence in the world, Dr. Robert Cialdini. So I guess candidly, the answer is say who's really good, and let's somewhere along the way of training and sales, I looked into NLP and became a master practitioner of NLP. And then I learned how to do a tote from Bucky Dilts. And how do I take and look at what somebody that's a domain expert does, reverse engineer it, and then model that. And so, it helped create method learning for um, learning anything I wanted from anybody.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm hearing that. It's what I'm hearing coming back to do the work and do it well. And also, so you've got that model already that there are people who are really good at what they do and people who are committed to that from a very young age. You saw that and experienced it. And then really valuing the impact of the learning you can get from those people and committing to that.
Yeah, there are two things probably that added to that. I don't know if this is helpful to anybody that'd be listening, but I had a sign in my room. My mom got it. Um, in the groovy 70s, and being Catholic, there was a transformation. There was Vatican II. They changed the altar. We now saw the priest. They didn't speak Latin. They had guitar mass, and it was hippie and groovy. And there was a place called Paulus Press that created these signs, and they looked like lava lamps. They were kind of like orange splotchy and yellow. And I remember I had this sign in my room that was really big that said, "What you are is God's gift to you. What you make of yourself is your gift to God." And I would look at that sign, and I would look at that sign, and that sign really stuck with me. I mean, I wish I had it. I wish I could find it. but, the one with the lava lamps, because it was quite a scene. But, that stuck with me. I'd be like, "You know what? What will I do with whatever I was given?" So I would try to do the best I could with it.
Yeah,
Um,
I can hear that. And that seems to, I mean, I'm just hearing so much influence in really what's coming to mind for me as I'm hearing you speak is the inputs inform the outputs, if you will. And you had so many positive inputs through your life of influences of worldview and philosophies and beliefs and whatnot that were serving you to stand true to who you are and um, and be an expert or be do the work and do it well. You know, I'm going to keep coming back to that. And
well, it comes
it,
back to books is what it comes we didn't have any money. My dad later on, bought a company when I left home, but before that, he worked for his father, who was pretty wealthy, but controlled his kids. My grandfather controlled his progeny,
mm,
and, my my parents were not educated. My mom graduated from high school. My dad had an 8th grade education.
mm,
Um, my grandparents didn't have any education. They were immigrants they spoke German in their house till they came to the city. And, but my mom took me to the library. And I mean, I
mm.
would go down to the library with a wagon and come back with like, here are the 50 states books, and then be the most irritating 8-year-old because I could speed read and photographic memory. And I'd memorize those 50 and be like, okay, what state is the best at flax? And then I'd be like, yeah, I was that person. Like, pull my finger and let's talk about wheat or cattle or and like and so, I read all the books, like, in the public library, and then my mom took me to the county library, and then once a month, we'd go to the state library, and I'm talking, at our school, if you read 18 books in the year, you got a certificate from the
Yeah.
public instruction. I read 20 a week,
Wow.
like,
At 8 years old.
what's on?
At 8 years old.
Probably 5.
Wow.
And, so I kept on outreading my grade level, and, by the way, I'm not, this is not like, so I'm some super smart person.
No,
Like,
it's just
I was
I
okay,
hear.
but like, not anything special. I just read a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and so now I got a house with 35 bookcases. I think my number might be 7,000 on everything. I have 7,000 books in my house. And they're friends. I write in them. So, be
Yeah.
like, you give a Kindle, not
Mhm.
Kindle. You can't
Mhm.
write in.
Mhm.
I like books that you write in,
Mhm.
and I know where they all are. I'm so
Mhm.
um the books inform the ideas inform the life. And one of the ideas was you are the 5 people you spend your time with. Charlie Tremendous Jones. So
Mhm.
I curated as I metamorphosized, different times. Who do I want to be and put those people in my life?
Yeah.
Wrote letters to, Mark Bryan and Julia Cameron wrote one of my favorite books, The Artist's Way.
I've
So I
read it.
would,
The morning routine, 3
so
pages.
I wrote Mark Bryan 300 letters and never got a return. Then I saw we had a workshop. And so I went to Santa Monica, and by noon of the first day, he said, we should write a book together. I said, I've written you 300 letters. Um, he's like, I never got them. But,
Oh.
my Man's Search for Meaning is my very favorite book. I
Mhm.
wrote the Franco family letters. Then I went over to go get the rights to the movie. Um, why? Because you can write a letter and people will respond eventually. So I just said, what are the energies I wanted in my life?
What are the energies I want in my life? That's beautiful.
Hmm, I,
As you
it's the way it is. That is what I did.
Interesting. So this is where this abundance mindset is coming from. Was this something we've heard abundance from you many times in this conversation already. Was abundance this positivity and this ability to sort of reach for whatever and make it happen, if you will. Is that something that started with you at a very young age, or is that something that you've cultivated over time, or something different?
Yeah. Um, I don't think it's complicated. Um, my mom told me as she took me to the library, etc., that I could be anything I wanted. You can be
Hmm.
anything you want. So that would sound very abundant. And then I decided what I wanted to be. And she said, "Oh, we're not those kind of people." And she said, "You could be anything you wanted." And so I did the work. And I remember, like, I was a freshman in high school, ninth grade in America, and I would cut out who won the scholarships and I would tape them on the wall. And I'm like, I'm going to win that. And I'm going to win that. And how did they win it? And then I studied that and reversed engineered it. That was problem solving called We Were Broke. And I was the oldest, and there were three kids behind me. And I realized that I probably, we only had so many resources. And so
Hmm.
I thought I was going to go to some big honky donk school. I just said
Hmm.
honky donk. I don't even know what that is. Uh, but I was going to go to some special place. And when I started saying I want to go this, my mom said, like, we're not those kind of people. And I got so
Mm.
like, ugh, that I went to the University of North Dakota, which, like, schools are schools and good people went there. But after 2.5 years, I said, I'm not doing this. I'm not graduating. I had like three more classes and I'd be done. And I'm
Hmm.
like, I'm not going to have that on my record. I'm going to go somewhere else. And my big idea was, what if I went to Minnesota? Because, whoa, that would make all the difference. And so I did. And it changed my life. I competed at the National Business Tournament and was president of the Greek system and opened up my doors. But so later on in life, I went to a seminar, psychological seminar, and it was called Landmark Education. I don't know if you ever
Hmm.
did the forum, EST.
Heard of it, yeah. Hmm.
So I did the forum in '87, and I've done it every 5 years since, and I hate it. I
Oh,
just can't stand it, except for it's really good for me. So I get there
what
and
what makes you say that it's really good for you?
because they have an incredible ability to push my buttons that I don't think or pretend I don't have. And then when I have that, then I realize what I got to work on and what it costs me to have that. And I
Mm.
also see magic. In 3 days, I sit in a room with people the first day and judge people and sit by who I think are my kind of people. And then I realize that they're messed up. And those people over there that I think are judgy and that I want to judge and stuff, that they're wonderful, amazing people that I judge by their rapping. And at the end of 3 days, you look at everyone and everyone loves each other, and you say, why can't we all be friends? And forget that we ever were that
Yeah.
ridiculous about it. And so I do it as a reset every 5 years. And so when I was doing this, you bring an issue to the table. And my issue was my mom. I
Mm.
fight with my mom. I fought with my mom. She told me what it could be anything. And then I said, I want to do this. She said, can't do that. I want to go to the
Mm.
school. Can't do that. And I was like, why doesn't my mom believe in me?
Mm.
But when I unpacked it, what I realized is my mom had an alcoholic father who got killed in a car accident when she had left to get
Oh.
married, but left four kids with no money and my grandmother. And I watched the hard lives that those people all had. And my dad was a transitional relationship. He had his own challenges with his parents. His mother died from cancer, um, but he was a good man. And
Mm.
they, they didn't have much, but they clung together. And but my mom, I made up, all the things that I thought were judgment. What I got was my mom loved me, and she thought I needed protection because she did.
Right.
And she didn't want me to hurt the way she had hurt from being a kid in that environment. But they weren't raised by my mom and dad.
Right.
My mom and dad raised us because of what happened to them, and they
Hmm.
raised us not to have these problems. And we don't have any history of divorce, all these things. Um, My siblings are amazing in lots of ways. Um, and what I got done was my mom didn't hate me. She loved me. She just didn't understand how good she did. I'll
Mhm.
tell the story, and I don't want to push any buttons, but I came home from for Christmas one year, and she said, "Well, how come you didn't bring Mike home?" And I'm like, "Cause he's with his family." And she's like, "Well, he's welcome here." I'm like, "Well, great, but why would he go 600 miles away from his family?" And the more this went, it was like 1 in the morning.
Mhm.
I finally got it. I'm like, Mom, what do you think? She thought that I was partnered with my roommate. Now, at the time, I was like, Mom. Now, what I understand is my mom, with her religious background, her upbringing, and all that, should not have been able to say that. What I understood is my mom said, I love you. I love you. I love you and anyone you love.
Mhm.
So it was a great, reframe is everything.
Yeah.
When I left,
Mhm.
I said, you know what, my mom loves me despite what she might have said or whatever. It's all service. And a lot of that came from Frankel. Frankel's book, Man's Search for Meaning.
Mhm.
It's not what happens to you, it's the meaning you give to what happens to you. And
Mhm.
so I've read that book every year since 1987.
Mhm.
Um, Once I read it twice. I read it in Dachau one time. I spent a day in an incinerator and read the book just to see what it'd be like.
Oh,
Look
good
up and
heavens.
go, I'm in that room. How about that?
Ooh,
Not literally,
that would
but
have,
metaphorically.
yeah.
Um, but
Wow.
so now I just look and say, what really happened there? Like, what else
Mhm.
could that have meant? And then I talked about it. And so it wasn't like, oh, I'm always happy and there is always positive. I also do a exercise. Philippians 4:8 from the Bible is whatsoever is just, whatsoever is good, whatsoever is all these things. Like think on that. And basically the end of
Mhm.
this scripture is focus on the good.
Mhm.
And so like I write in a journal. I've got like I do them this book is the Daily Guide to Joy-Filled Life, and it's 40 days, and there are 3 pages you read, and then you do the exercise. And then when I'm done, I go get another book. And now I have them like I have 15 of them sitting next to me because I send them out to people. But I just every 40 days I work on different things. And then you know what? By the time I get to 40, I'm slipping back, but um, that's what I got. That's what I do.
Amazing. Do the work and do it well. And
Right.
you're the work. And if you, the thing that I'm hearing, we haven't really talked about your work in your body of expertise around sales and influence. What I'm hearing is that when you're doing the work, it gives you so much more empathy, experience, compassion, and exposure to what your clients might be going through. It's what I'm hearing or imagining.
It's probably not wrong. I don't think of it like that, but it might be in effect the effect.
Mm.
I Freedom is important to me, and so I believe in freedom. And people that don't want me to be free are not their foes, and the people that will let me be free are my friends. And and I don't mean like lack of freedom is discipline. I think discipline is freedom, but uh, for me, I decide what I want to do, who I want to do it with. What my
You're
life
te-
is a blank sheet of paper, and I write how I want it to be. Now, I will tell you that a lot of times I set goals that were incremental, and then in that incremental, they depended so much of me that when I
Mhm.
got there, I was like, "Look what I did! Ha ha ha!" And that always created division.
Tell us more about that. What do you mean?
Well. you want to make an income, you want to sell something, you want to do anything, and you get there, it's like, look what I did. But there isn't a lot of room for other people, so there's nobody clapping for you. It's a hollow victory. I mean, I won a lot of scholarships as a kid that said I was a leader and all this, but no one was following me. I was just the most productive because I worked harder. So you picked up on the theme of what my dad said. That's
Hmm.
how I live, but it wasn't very winsome.
Hollow victories.
It'd be
Mm.
like, well, look at this. I'll tell you how broken toy I was. I went to college and I brought all my trophies.
Mm.
I had a room and it had hundreds of trophies in it. And I'd be like, haha, because I needed those.
Yeah.
But somebody that was healthy, a girl or something that came in and be like, what is wrong with you? I remember I had him as a young adult in my 20s, and I had a roommate, we had a house, and I had this office and I had all my stuff there. And I would leave the door open if I had a date come over for dinner. And so when she went by the bathroom, she could look and see how great I was. And then one day I said, why am I such a broken toy that I need all these? And I'm like, you know what? I could give them away. I could call up the soccer thing or the Downs kids or whatever, and they could. So I called them up and they're like, yeah, we get new trophies. We don't need your trophies. I found out that nobody wanted my trophies. Nobody. And I thought, well, geez, I can't even give them away. So I boxed them all up. I put them on my front yard for the garbage. And then in the shower, I think, you know what? I could just put them in storage. What an idea. And then I get dressed, I go out, they're gone. And you know what I
Somebody wanted them.
know? The garbage man took them.
Oh, they were already gone.
And you know what it was? Freedom.
Oh,
It was freedom. I didn't have to be any of that. That was my past. So now I don't really have past. I got a new goals. David Hawkins is not Hawking, but David Hawkins is a young African American pastor across the way in St. Louis. He's a
mm,
sister to our church, and we
yeah.
do some helping funding. The people in that community don't have the money that we have on our side
Mm,
of town. And then he comes in reciprocity and teaches a couple times when our pastor is on break. And he's very winsome. And he said, you should have God dreams. And he said, Noah gets this, hey, you should build an ark. Like when he's done, he doesn't go, hey, look what I did. He's like, holy mackerel, how did we pull that one off? He's like, if your dream is something you can figure out how you're going to do it, it's your dream.
mm,
You said, but if there's a dream that every day you get out of bed and you're like, there's no way, and it keeps coming, that's a God dream. He said,
mm.
and the only way that can happen is if like you have divine intervention. I decided pretty much that I was only going to work on God dreams, that there's no way I can possibly do it. It's so immature to think this way, probably, but I'm like, well, whatever happens, that'll be God because there's no way I can pull this one off.
Amazing.
Yeah.
What,
By the way,
what,
so my point of that was that's where positive comes from.
mm,
I look and say, you know what I do? I pray about, have you ever had a boat?
no, I've been on boats,
There's
learned
a
how to
saying that
sail.
there's a saying that says the happiest day in your life is the day you get a boat. The
Mm.
second best day of your life is when you sell your boat.
I've heard that before.
So I have decided
Oh.
I get these dreams and then I work on them. And then I say, God, this is my daily prayer. I don't
Mm,
pray for it to happen. I say, God, I got this dream again. I'm working on it. If this isn't what you have for me, tell me, I'll quit. But right
mhm,
now, I think this is what you want me to do. I don't get it. I don't know how it's going to work. I don't have the people, the money. I don't have any of it. It's in your hands. Tell me if I should quit. If not, be the labor great or small. I don't really do
right.
this, but I'm going to work on it. I say, and then I say, God, if this is a boat, make it obvious.
There you
Make the
go.
boat obvious. And then I just go to work. And then if things don't work out,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I wonder what I'm supposed to learn from that.
Mm-hmm.
Wonder how this is going to end up. So I don't worry about much. I'm sure, I got some deaths coming ahead in mind. My parents are 80, 85. My in-laws
Mm.
are 91 and 97.
Wow.
So we have days coming, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be sad, but um, I won't be traumatized.
Mm.
Like my dad, every time we're together, he says whatever he's got to say. And the reason is the day before his father died, his father was in the hospital with prostate cancer, and they
Mm.
had a surgery. He was in recovery and was going to get out the next morning. And he's called my dad and said, "Hey, I want you to come over." And my little brother, 14 years younger, was colicky that day. And he said, "Hey, Clint is tired, colicky. Lois, my mom, is tired. I got
Mm.
to take care of the kids. I'm going to see you in the morning. Can it wait?" "No, come over tonight." He's like, "Dad, I'm picking you up at 8." He died that night. And my dad wondered, what what did my dad want to say? Was it like, go pick up the laundry, or or was it something? So my
Yeah.
dad just tells us everything he wants us to know. Like, there is never an empty, it's like, here it is. Get your crap together. Sometimes stronger word there. Uh, Pointed, but we
Yeah.
never wonder. And so everything's complete, you know?
Yeah.
Well, it'll be complete.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm hearing so many key ideas here. I think in just pulling some of the main themes that I'm hearing in your story, Tommy, starting with a real appreciation for doing the work and learning from authorities or experts, if you will, really understanding the importance of whether it be small or big, do it well, do the work, and learn from the best. Um, a deep appreciation on your part for mastery or expertise, if you will, whether it's yourself or others. Commit your full self to whatever it is. Um, I also heard you say freedom when you were speaking. We heard it a few times, but you really emphasized it when you talked about your trophies and not holding on to your past, which is such a big part of our story. And I think you as we have different influences that we hold on to, it does get in the way. And that piece of, then you also talked about reframing is everything, was an expression you used earlier. um, Really thinking about, mm, how is this good for me, or what can I learn here? Even though in your landmark story, you said, I hate it, but it's good for me. Reframing is everything. Um, and one of the pieces that I really want to lean into here is this concept of hollow victory, where when we are, a hollow victory creates separation, and how important it is to connect. And I'm sure that this has a great deal of influence today on and informs your work now, this experience of hollow victory. Would you mind sharing a little bit more about that
You
concept
want to
with
know,
us?
and I'll be happy to.
Pardon me?
What do you want to know?
The idea that if it's not a hollow victory, what does it look like instead? How does it feel? And what is the ultimate um, win, if you will, from that? Because you like to win.
I don't know the answers to those. I mean, I have answers. There are there are wins of all kinds. There are wins that are more long. There are
Mm,
wins that are eternal. So, um,
mm,
what's the scale? Is it for today, 5 years, 10 years, death, 20 years after I'm gone? Um, I work with a lot of financial advisors today, and especially people that work with people that have significant wealth.
mhm,
And so, what are you working for? When you have $600 million, what are you really working for anymore? You don't want to be at home full time. And if you did, your spouse would say, "Okay, I've never had this before, go back to work." So, I mean, there is that. What's the next adventure? And
mm,
so, I created a study practice for how do you work with people that have 9-figure and 10-figure wealth,
Mm,
um, that are faith-filled and would don't want to take away the opportunity for their kids to earn their own way. So they want to give something,
mhm.
but not too much where they can be
Right.
dependent. Uh,
Mhm,
we all know the story of the third generation of wealth, which usually doesn't go well. So
mhm,
they're like, what are we going to do with all this? They don't want to give it to the government. And it's not that they don't want to make things better. They just know for every dollar we give the government, they'll take 10 more and get us worse. So they don't, so they want to control something. They want to put
mm,
something into place. So I create a stewardship process to say, what do you really believe in that you would like the spoils of your life to serve so that when you're gone, your work isn't done, but it keeps going. And Paul J. Meyer, who I studied with when I was a kid in Waco, Texas, this guy was so successful. He never had a college education. He lived in Waco. When I took my kid to Waco, to Baylor, to receive his scholarship, I sat in the auditorium and I looked up and it was the Paul J. Meyer Fieldhouse. He gave a basketball arena to a school that he never went to.
mhm,
Like, that's crazy, right? But he gave a book that said how to give your money away, how to steward your
mm,
money. And this idea that if you're going to give something, you better make sure you gave a money to take care of it or it will fall apart. And like, give them streams of income, not income. Give them
mm,
something that when you do something, it grows so that it has scale. And so I think about that in my projects. I think about that in my clients. There was
mm,
a time where I'd be like, boy, I got a check. Look at, we can pay the bills.
mhm,
And then it would be like, oh, I got something longer term. Now it's, there are loops. So sometimes they're confusing. But when I was a salesperson that was new, I had trouble selling corporate deals. And it was because I sold too low. And this person is now 87 and been a mentor, a friend for 30 some years, 35 years probably. Anyhow, he said, write this down. Be a decision maker that meets with decision makers for the purpose of making decisions. You don't try to get people to buy, you try to get them to decide, and no's are okay. Move along. Some will, some won't. So what? Someone else is waiting. Jesus didn't get them all either. So that was kind of his thought. So I wrote it down. I wrote it down. I'm a decision maker. I meet with decision makers for the purpose of making decisions. And you know what? I got a card. It said decision maker. I'd give it to someone. They go, oh, you're the decision maker. Hi, I go, are you? And then that was a little banter. And then I outgrew that shtick.
mhm,
But what it evolved to, and it was a seed for, was I'm a difference maker and I meet with
mm,
difference makers for the purpose of making a difference. And now it's not like, here's what I want to sell you or what do you
right.
want to buy? It's what are we trying to get? What outcome are we trying to get? And there are people that are up to outcomes that really don't interest me. There are outcomes that I don't morally love.
Mm,
I had a person that was going to be a partner, and his wife was an OnlyFans model. I'm like, I don't, no judgment, but that's not my life. That's not my people.
mhm,
These are
mhm,
not what I do.
mhm,
Um, so I said, I don't think this will work. But so now, what success is are we doing something that matters? And so, like in my wealth practice, I'm like, there are good guys and there are bad guys. There are people that'll sell stuff because they make more money, but it's bad for people, not my people. There are
mhm,
people that are more abundant that say, these products are better for the people. I don't make as much, but that all works out in the long run.
mhm,
And it always works out in the long run. And so I'm like, how do we steward? So when I thought a house that was different would save me, or a new car, or any of those things, success was like, how much would I make or what would it get? Um, Now I want to do work that when it's done, everyone celebrates that it's, Cialdini taught me that an ethical influence is something that's true, first of all. The second is that's naturally arising, it's not force fit, and it's win win for everyone. So there are times where I'll compete against someone and I think they should buy me and I think they should buy the other people. And then they say, okay, we picked you. I said, you should pick us.
Mm,
We actually inform each other. We don't compete, and you
right.
are better served. It's more money, but it will mitigate your risk. And I sell somebody's thing back in that I beat. Why? Because it's
Right.
the right thing to do. And those are the moments um, that I celebrate. And I mean, I like to get paid like anyone. But I'll tell you, 11 o'clock texts that say, I can't believe today, or a video, or a customer saying something to me because of something that my customer did. All um, those are pretty good wins.
Yeah. Deeper meaning, more impact, more purpose.
And that's why we went from major league sales to major league influence. I said, um, sales has a feel to it, sell out, betray. There are people that are salesy. No one ever says you're salesy and means that as a compliment.
Mm,
Uh, Influence lets me spend more time with a higher level instead of it being go sell something, it's go lead something, lead a movement. And that's why my book project I'm writing is called Followed. And
mm,
as I look at my past, there are times where I was winning awards for being a leader and no one was following me. So I wasn't a leader. It was
yeah.
an award that was hollow, and there was
Right.
nobody there to applaud when I got it.
Hmm.
But the idea of followed today is, what are you doing that has influence where people want to be a part of that, that it swells? And what I learned is nobody follows me. What they follow are my clients.
Mm,
And so to make room for better opportunities to serve, there were people that didn't get to be my clients. We weren't a fit. They didn't want to do the work. They didn't have projects that were big enough. They hadn't done enough other work.
hmm.
But I wanted to work with someone at a different gestation so that I could do what I do uniquely instead of what they could get from anyone.
Right.
So we're in a transformation for that, but I'm hoping for 30 more years of work. Um, Drucker did it, so I'm hoping to do it. And in those 30 years, you know, I I'd like to have a bunch of my clients do things in the world that matter. I'd be very happy with that.
Hmm. Really speaking about meaningful wins and meaningful impact, influencing.
Have you ever seen Mr. Holland's Opus?
Oh my gosh.
Richard Dreyfuss is,
Yeah, it's a long time ago though.
I feel like that guy.
Ah,
Like when
finish finish us finish wrap us up with that. Tell us about that and who you are feeling like that guy.
Well, Richard Dreyfuss has this channel. He wants to be a rock and roller, and he has a deaf son, and because he's got to, make that work, and you know, um, be a stand-up guy and give this. I think the kid's name is Cole in the show,
Mm,
but he loses his dream, and he's got to make a living. He wants to be home instead of, doing the band, and he gets gigs, and he becomes a teacher, but it's not his plan. It's a fill-in.
mhm,
And as the movie progresses, he's got 35 years there. and there's the kids that are challenged and that want to quit. And but at the end, in the back, there's this piece that he was going to write, a composition, his opus, and he gets it done finally. He finally does the work and get it. And the best of the best through all the years come back, and one's like the governor of the state or something, and they sit in. I don't know, like, that just choked me up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they play a song. They play a song. I don't know. I don't know why I'm embarrassed by that, but um, like, what a beautiful thing.
It's a beautiful thing, and it's obviously touching for you.
I had a band director. I had a choir director.
Oh,
I lived those things. Bunch of
yeah.
farm kids in the middle of North Dakota that traveled the world because our city was willing to pay a tax base to provide music in school
Mm,
districts that other don't. But there's 21 all-American jazz spots. And when I was in high school, I had four of them in my band. Every year, a state could nominate people. And there was one the year before I graduated, one the year I graduated, and two the next two that I played with when I was a senior, a sophomore, and junior. But I
wow.
played with the top musicians in the country in a farm town with no money. And it was because a bunch of people said, we're going to provide educate. I took 5 years of Latin in a public school in a farm town.
Mm,
Um, all this, I don't know. I reach I reach out to some of those teachers. A bunch of them are gone.
mm,
But anything I did that would have value is my parents and the teachers. They did all the work, and most of them didn't have much, didn't get to do any of the crazy things that I've got to do in my life. But I know what happened.
yeah. Appreciation for those quiet contributors behind the scenes.
And
Mm,
then you realize that the end of your life is to be that. Like, there's
mm,
people after you, kids that, my
mhm.
kids. Um, and so I have seven Ernst and Young finalists. When my guy who used to be my partner who couldn't do this job left and started a business and left with centimillions of dollars when he sold his company and has his Learjet and stuff, I smile because I know what my role was in that. Now, I would take the money, by the way. That's not finished with me. I'm a late bloomer.
Oh, that's amazing. Really beautiful place to find ourselves as we're winding up here around your vision for building an even
You
greater
made me
legacy.
cry, you meanie.
I just asked questions. I was to share with you as you were sharing that story that was touching for you. I was getting incredible goosebumps. So there was, and those tell me that we're on a moment. So thank you for sharing generously and being here with us.
Well, thanks for having me.
You
And
have.
your people, your followers, your tribe are lucky to have you. You are a
Mm.
kind, generous uh, listener, and I hope there's some of value for somebody.
Oh, there's definitely value in here. You've shared so many gems, Tommy, and specifically around really standing true to who you are, standing for your values, what's important to you, and really understanding how to bring that forward in ways that have integrity and morals and authenticity and whatnot. We've really seen that throughout this whole sharing, and I appreciate that from you. Thank
That's
you.
kind. You eulogized me at the
I did.
beginning and now at the end. I'm gonna die today.
You're hilarious. Is there, for those people who would like to hear more, let's let them connect with you. Where would the best place be for them to find you, Tommy, if they'd like to follow you and connect with you?
Well, if they really want to follow me, they should go to a treatment facility. That's what they should do. They should get you know, should get some kind of counseling. But I'm on LinkedIn's probably the best way. Tommy
Okay.
Schaff.
Okay. Perfect.
Tommy Schaff in St. Louis, Missouri.
Perfect. In Missouri. All right. We will make sure that link is available for anyone who wants to follow you and hear more of your stories of abundance and positive mindset. So thank you so much for sharing all of you today. And I'm grateful for our conversation.
Grateful for you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Tommy.